Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Matthew Peterson. And on today's episode, I want to round up some of the NFL news and rumor storylines out there and how they pertain to your Atlanta Falcons. So, the first one I want to talk about is not something that's very new, but just something that's going to be in front of your face for the next couple of days. And that is the major rest advantage for the Falcons going into Week 13 as they go back to Atlanta, play their first home game since the Cowboys game at the start of November. And they're going to have a major advantage over the Chargers, who play tonight on Monday Night Football against the Ravens in the Harbaugh Bowl. But the Falcons will go into this game on Sunday with a 13-day advantage or 13-day off rest period, whereas the Chargers, who play on Monday night, will go into Sunday traveling across the country with just 5 days of rest. So, of course, whenever you play on a bye, you're going to have a little bit of a leg up, right? Getting a week off. But you play on a bye and the opposing team is on a short week as it is, it feels like a double whammy. Now, I was curious how often this has happened before where a team coming off a bye plays an opponent that played on Monday night, right? The kind of biggest gap possible for a rest advantage. And it's actually happened twice this year. So it happened earlier when the 49ers played on Monday night when the Buccaneers played on Monday night against the Chiefs, and then they turned around and played the Niners 6 days later, who came off a bye, and the 49ers won with that big rest advantage. It also happened a little bit after that, where we had the Raiders, who played the Dolphins after the Dolphins played on Monday night against the Rams. Now, despite the Raiders having the big advantage in rest, the Dolphins took care of business and beat the crap out of the Raiders 34-19. So I want to go one step further and draw a bigger sample size. I went all the way back to 2019. And what I found was teams that play on Monday night and then turn around 5 days, 6 days later and play a team coming off the bye are 7-1. So it doesn't really fit my narrative super duper well, but I still feel it is a big advantage for the Falcons, especially because of those 7 wins that teams playing on Monday night had when they turned around and played a team on coming off the bye. Of those 7, 3 of which came against the Raiders. The Falcons are better than the Raiders. So clearly the goal here is to always play the Raiders on a short week because they are so abysmal and so disorganized that it doesn't matter what kind of advantage they have. It's not really that big of an advantage. So for the Falcons, I feel like them at home with the Chargers on a short week traveling across the country is a huge boost to Atlanta that really needs a win after the last outing was a 32-point loss in Denver. So who you got, by the way, for this game in Week 13? Falcons or Chargers? Let me know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're less than 20 subscribers away from reaching 30,000 subscribers. I want to get to the big 3-0 before I go home for Thanksgiving because all my family members are going to be asking about my job, and none of them really believe my job is all that real whenever I try to explain it. So getting to 30,000 subscribers would be a nice table conversation starter for your boy here. Second piece of news coming out of the bye. The Falcons are going to face Desmond Ritter most likely. So if you didn't catch it, the Raiders, which I hate to make this just an anti-Raiders show, but they kind of do it to themselves here, went from bad to worse. Gardner Minshew suffered a broken collarbone in their loss at home against the Broncos, which means next man up is our guy, Desmond Ritter. I know. If you didn't follow it too closely, after he got traded to the Cardinals for Rondale Moore, which is an ultimate just wash of a trade for both sides since Moore did not play a single snap for the Falcons due to injury, and Ritter never played a single snap for the Cardinals because he lost the backup gig to Clayton Tune. Both guys are unfortunately unavailable for the teams that acquire them in the trade. However, the Falcons get ready for the Raiders in a couple of weeks, and with Desmond Ritter being the next man up in Las Vegas, as long as he does not lose the starting job to Aiden O'Connell, who is coming back from an injury soon, but he didn't play very inspiring football before his injury. We might see Falcons Raiders on Monday night in Week 14. Now, before we dive any further into that storyline, because I do have some fun numbers that I think you guys will enjoy seeing, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Now, Prize Picks is offering an awesome deal for Thanksgiving. They put Tyreek Hill's receiving yards at 0.5. They're just giving it to you. So go ahead and take it. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, how did Desmond Ritter fare when he came in at the end of the game for Gardner Minshew? In 13 snaps, he was sacked twice, he fumbled it once, and he completed 50% of his passes. That pretty much sums up the Desmond Ritter experience, does it not? So the Falcons are definitely pinning their ears back to face Ritter, not as a revenge game. I don't have ill will towards Ritter as a person. Unfortunately, he just didn't work out because he could not hold on to the football or protect the football to save his life. But the Falcons defense desperately needs some type of jump-off trampoline game. And what better way to do that than against a guy who is addicted to turnovers? What better opportunity for the Falcons pass rush to start heating up and gaining some rhythm and momentum going into the playoffs than playing Desmond Ritter? Now, fingers crossed, this game does not get flexed out on Monday night because I think for at least our sake, it would be entertaining to watch it. But the deadline to flex it is December 4th, so keep an eye on that. But I went ahead and looked at the Week 15 schedule to see, all right, if they're going to move the Falcons and Raiders game out of Monday night, who could they be moving it in for? There's not a ton of great options. You got the Chargers-Buccaneers, which I think would be a good matchup, but the Chargers play on Thursday night just the week before. So that's a lot of Chargers in prime time, so unlikely. Broncos-Colts, Broncos play the Chargers on Thursday night the week before. So also unlikely. Texans-Dolphins, that could be the case if the Dolphins keep winning and that's like a close record game. So I could see that one happening. Now, there are some other games, but I believe they are protected by the networks. You got the Steelers and Eagles on Fox. The way this works is all these networks bid on games before the season starts, and they are protected. And so the teams aren't going to be flexed out of those protected games. Another one that's probably protected is Bills versus Lions on CBS. So these to me seem like the 3 most likely options. And with these 2 playing on Thursday night the week before, I doubt they go back-to-back. Maybe, but unlikely. And the Texans-Dolphins does have a shot, but the Texans don't look all that exciting right now to begin with. So there's going to be a doubleheader on Monday night. Maybe the NFL just decides, let's not flex it. We'll just keep it as is since there's another game, Bears-Vikings, and people could be, more drawn to that. I don't know. Just spitballing here. So the Falcons facing Desmond Ritter would definitely be a big boost for the secondary to kind of get some swagger and confidence going into the last couple of weeks of the year. And then the third thing I want to bring up is the Buccaneers are heating up. We somewhat saw this as a real potential when they would start to get healthy. They just got Mike Evans back after his 3-week absence, and what a great time to play the New York Giants, who are an absolute dumpster fire of a team at the moment. They have no identity. They have no direction whatsoever. So kudos to the Buccaneers schedule makers. I mean, they certainly find themselves playing the Giants at a great time, and just like last year, the Buccaneers are not really out of it. After this win, they are 5-6. They are just a game or 2 games back because Atlanta swept Tampa. So tie goes to the Falcons. So the Buccaneers need to find a way to make up not just 1 game to get tied with Atlanta, but find a way to make up 2 games to take over the division lead. So when we look at the NFC playoff picture going into Monday night between a pair of AFC teams, the Falcons sitting at 6-5 are the 4th seed behind the Seahawks, who they do not have the tiebreaker over. And they would be on a collision course to play the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings, which I actually would welcome that because it would be the Kirk Cousins Bowl, which for America would be awesome to see. But if we're looking at the Falcons' upcoming schedule here, with a 2-game lead, let's call it, over the Buccaneers, they've got some tough games. I mean, Chargers, Vikings, back-to-back teams that are currently in the playoff picture. But then after that, Raiders, bad. Giants, worse. Commanders, reeling. Panthers, kind of improving, honestly, but still, I think at home in Week 18, that's a game that Atlanta should be big favorites in. So the Falcons have some tough games coming up, but their last 4 games are relatively cakewalks. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, they play a lot of similar teams. They got the Panthers, they got the Raiders, they got the Chargers, they got the Cowboys on Sunday night. We'll see if that stays for Sunday night. And then they got the Panthers and the Saints. So they play Carolina twice as the Panthers start to heat up. The Saints are going to be a frisky team the rest of the year. And then they have the Chargers just like Atlanta, although they got the Chargers on the road. And they got the Cowboys on the road as well. The Dallas Cowboys just put up a really good fight and knocked off the Commanders on the road. So both schedules are very similar because they play a lot of the same teams. So I don't think one's got a major advantage over the other. Maybe the most difficult game right there is the Chargers, and the Falcons have it at home, whereas the Bucs have it on the road. But the big takeaway from this is do not open the door for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were in this near identical spot last year. At week 12, they were 4-7. At the end of the season, they were 9-8. They lost one game in the last 6 weeks of the year. So do not let the door just creak open for Baker and the Bucs because they made the most of it last year. Now, 9-8 last year was good enough to win the NFC South. This year, I think you got to probably win 10 games. So 9-8 last year worked. This year, I don't think that would get you the 4th seed, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, how confident are you in the Falcons winning the division? Scale it for me 1 to 10. For me, I'm at an 8.1. I would probably be lying to you if I said I was at a complete 10, given that the Falcons are going one way and the Buccaneers are going the other. But I still think with that 2-game lead and a very easy final 4 weeks of the season, they should be able to put this one in cruise control and find a way to win with 10 wins on the season. Before we sign off, I just want to show some love to the Dirty Birds Club. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel as you always do. Following the bye, we'll be back on Sunday for a Falcons-Chargers watch party, so come tune in. It's an awesome way to take a Falcons football game in. And if you send in a $100 super chat during the watch party, we'll add you to the Dirty Birds Club to get shout-outs for the entire season.